Inflation. I mean, I'll never steer you wrong. 3.1%. I told you it was going to be hot. This is hot, 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 hot. I mean, when you look at inflation, and we can look at it, stripping it out as well for, the core CPI, as they like to call it, because core excludes all food and energy. I mean, just things that you use. I don't know why we necessarily exclude it, but core and overall, they're both showing a very, very bad picture. Now, people look at that graph. If you're watching the show in video form, we're showing a graphic here. This comes to us courtesy of the Wall Street Journal. And you see that inflation, hey, it's come down from where it was earlier when it neared 10%. And this is what Joe Biden keeps touting. But it's no good, because you know what? You got to think of this as cumulative. If you're up 2% year over year, and we're actually up a lot more than that, but if you're up 2% year over year, and then the next month you're up another 2% year over year, and then you're up 3% year over year, even if you go down to just being up 1.5% year over year, you're still, you see, like climbing the steps higher. You're going higher and higher and higher on inflation. And so this is a humongous problem. And I've been telling you and telling you and telling you and telling you that there's no way the Fed was going to easily get out of this one. I mean, I hope they can, but I think even they are recognizing they printed too much money for way too long. And now we're in a situation, not only were they printing, but you had all these lawmakers spending like drunken sailors. They're continuing to do it today. The 95 billion, not their money, right, that they're going to give out of your money, my money, to fund Ukraine. They just keep going. At some point, this 34 trillion and counting, it's going to come back to haunt us in a really massive, really significant, very big way. Jay Powell gets it. Here he is on 60 Minutes just the other day. I got to play this sound again for you.
Long run, the U.S. is on an unsustainable fiscal path. The U.S. federal government's on an unsustainable fiscal path.
Yeah, a totally unsustainable fiscal path. You got that one right, buddy. Totally right. Like, look, it's why, if you're a small business owner, and I know many of you are. I'm now a small business owner. Like I get this stuff, and I know how hard it is for small business owners. You got to have people in place in Washington that are looking out for you, that are looking out for the policies that are going to protect small business owners. You want lower taxes, less regulation, the freedom to grow, the freedom to prosper. And this is why, I love my friends. You met Alfredo. He came on the show maybe about 6 months ago. Alfredo Ortiz, he runs something called the Job Creators Network. And this is just a phenomenal network. I actually encourage you to look at it, to join it. You can join JCN, even if you're not a small business owner, okay? We'll still include you. Join JCN.com, because this is an organization that cares so much about making sure we have the right policies in place and we have the right people in Washington looking out for you in all corners of the country. Doesn't matter if you're living in northern New Hampshire or Southern California or in the middle of Oklahoma. These guys are out there every single day breaking their backs to try and make sure that we get the right policies. And this is important, guys. I tell you all the time, the policy stuff, it matters. We need the right policies in place to protect our economy and to protect our future. So that's what they're doing. A little shout out to them as we talk about inflation. Join JCN.com. That's where you need to go. Join JCN, Job Creators Network. It's right there on the screen. The other thing that I would tell you about as far as inflation goes is that the elites of the world, they don't seem to get it. They just don't. They tell us over and over and over again on shows like Morning Joe and other state media. I don't even think I can call them mainstream media organizations anymore. Like these state media places, they're like, oh, but there is no inflation and everything's fine. I mean, how many times do we have to have the ladies on The View say things are great? He's done a wonderful job with the economy. No, he hasn't done a wonderful job on the economy. Bill Maher, who often I like, but also lives in his la-la land where he's not, out shopping for normal stuff like a normal person. He started talking about inflation the other day on his program, and he got totally, totally checked by his guest. Like, she just destroys him because he has no clue what's really going on in the world. Take a look at this.
But isn't it amazing to you? Like, it was in the paper today about this country came out of the pandemic way better. We won the pandemic economically. I mean, America.
God, I don't feel that way. Explain it to me. I feel like inflation's insane.
Inflation is not insane.
Bill, go buy a car.
There's numbers. I understand. Things,
A house
but it has
tripled here.
Look, I get that people
Buy some eggs. Explain
okay,
it to me.
but
I'm not an economist, so
there's
I'm just trying to.
feelings, and then there's the numbers.
Okay, what are the numbers?
The numbers have come down a lot in the last 6 months.
Okay.
Of course, it was inevitable when we gave out $6 trillion so that everybody could hide under the bed from the forever flu. That was never going to end well.
It was taken by the richest people ever and didn't get where it needed to go.
A lot of it was stolen. It was, we agree on that too. It was like, was there some response needed? Of course, you don't want the hospitals overrun, but it was just a massive overreaction. And that did cause some of the inflation.
Okay, and he wants us to believe that it's coming down. You know, it did go way, way up under Joe Biden, and then it came down, but it's still higher, Bill. And even if that's not enough for you, let me share with you this little number. This is my favorite chart. Those of you that are part of the Trish Regan team, you know this chart, the Reganites out there. We thank Yahoo Finance for this because I was cranking out the numbers myself. Trying to put them into a spreadsheet. And finally, I just thought, okay, well, this is easier. Biden versus Trump on income. Take a look at Donald Trump. Take a look at Joe Biden. This is income adjusted for inflation. You get it? You can't look at any of these numbers unless you look at income adjusted for inflation. So don't sit there and tell me, oh, you know, inflation's kind of coming down and people are making more money and look at this, that, and the other. No, I want to know income adjusted for inflation. And this tells you everything you need to know. So Bill Maher, maybe you don't feel it, but everyday Americans, they feel it. And they're noticing it. Your guest, for goodness sakes, is like, for goodness sakes, go buy some freaking eggs and find out when you buy those eggs just how bad it is. Of course, you know, the powers that be, the elites of the world, they would just say, don't buy the eggs. The Wall Street Journal out with a headline in February of last year, to save money, maybe you should skip breakfast. I mean, I know America struggles with its weight problems and this, that, and the other, but that's a little much, right? To save money, just skip breakfast because eggs are too darn expensive. It's kind of like John Kerry telling us we should just all eat bugs to save the environment, right? It's really gotten to be too much. And I got to say, we got to stand up to this. We got to collectively stand up to this. We need policies in place that actually help everyday Americans. I mean, think about how much more you're spending at the gas tank right now. Think about how much more you're spending to heat your house. Well, they think that you can just skip breakfast, therefore you don't have the pain of the higher cost eggs, and you can just go out and buy an EV, an electric vehicle. I mean, Jennifer Granholm was quite famous for saying that. Well, everybody can just go buy an EV, as though money just grows on trees. I mean, maybe it does grow on trees, considering that the Federal Reserve has printed so much. But realistically speaking, there are no policy solutions from this administration that will actually reduce your costs and make it so that you can enjoy a better livelihood without struggling with inflation thanks to higher gas prices or higher food prices.